The darkness of space split open with flashes of blue light. One by one, massive warships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were gray and black, covered with weapons and armor plating. 200 ships materialized in perfect formation, each one larger than any station humanity had ever built. War Commander Thexvel stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet on his screens. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Another primitive world, another easy conquest. The Valkyrie had done this 47 times before. Earth would be number 48. Analysis complete, Commander, his tactical officer reported. The humans have achieved basic spaceflight. 30 combat vessels detected. Orbital stations around their homeworld and the 4th planet. No unified defense grid. They are primitives. Dexvel clicked his mandibles together in what passed for a Valkyrie smile. Excellent. Begin standard harvesting protocol. Send them the ultimatum. 10,000 kilometers above Earth's surface. Captain Daewon Kim sat in the command chair of Unity 7, one of humanity's largest orbital defense stations. He was 50 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much during the Mars colony conflicts 15 years ago. He sipped his coffee and watched the sensor displays with the calm of a man who had been waiting for this moment. Captain, we have multiple hyperspace signatures. Lieutenant Hannah Cho called out from the communications station. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. 200 contacts. They're massive, sir. I see them, Daewon said quietly. He set down his coffee cup and straightened in his chair. Sound, General Quarters. Alert Earth Command. Activate Protocol 17. Hannah's head snapped around. Sir, Protocol 17? You heard me, Lieutenant? Around the solar system, alarms began to sound. Every human ship, every station, every settlement on the Moon, Mars, and the asteroid colonies went to battle stations. 30 warships that humanity had scraped together over decades of work moved into defensive positions. Against 200 Valkyrie vessels, they looked like toys. On Unity 7, Hannah's console beeped. Sir, incoming transmission from the unknown fleet. It's in English, Korean, Mandarin, Spanish, and 50 other Earth languages. Put it through. A harsh mechanical voice filled the bridge. Humans of Earth. This is War Commander the Svel of the Valkyrie. Harvest Fleet. Your world has been selected for resource extraction and population harvesting. You have 2 choices. Surrender all resources and submit to collection, or resist and face complete extinction. You have 24 hours to respond. The transmission ended. The bridge crew looked at their captain, waiting for orders. Some were afraid. Others were angry. Daewon simply nodded and stood up. Lieutenant Cho, open a channel to the Valkyrie flagship. Broadcast on all frequencies. Channel open, sir. Daewon stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. This is Captain Daewon Kim of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your ultimatum. Here is our response. This is your only warning. Leave this system now, or you will perish. You have 24 hours. The bridge fell silent. Hannah stared at her captain as if he had gone insane. The weapons officer's mouth hung open. Even the experienced crew members looked shocked. On the Valkyrie flagship, Dexvel listened to the human's response. Then he began to laugh. It was a horrible sound, like metal scraping on stone. His entire bridge crew joined in. They warn us? Dexvel managed between laughs. 30 ships against 200, and they warn us. These humans are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. His science officer, Nexara, did not laugh. She studied her instruments with growing concern. Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from their planet. There is also a continuous broadcast emanating from their southern pole, using technology far more advanced than their ships suggest. Primitive tricks, Dexville dismissed. They are trying to frighten us with ghost signals. Begin the invasion countdown. In 24 hours, we will show these humans what happens to species that refuse the harvest. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. In a facility that appeared on no maps and in no records, Dr. Sung Ho Bei stood before a console of lights that humanity had not built. The technology was ancient beyond measure, elegant beyond human understanding. Beside him, Commander Yen Su, Lim of Earth, Special Operations, watched a countdown on her display. "The signal is transmitting," Sun Ho said softly. "After 40 years of silence, we finally activated it." "Will they come?" Yanesio asked. "They promised they would."
At one time.
"We can call them one time, above their heads, beyond the ice and rock and atmosphere, beyond the orbital stations and the moon." A signal raced into deep space. It traveled faster than light itself, carried on principles of physics that humanity barely understood. It was a simple message, encoded in mathematical constants and cosmic coordinates. "We need you. Please come." In Geneva, in the emergency command center buried beneath the city, President Unipark sat at the head of a table surrounded by the leaders of Earth's nations. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what Protocol 17 meant. Everyone knew what humanity had hidden for 40 years. "They will come," she said firmly. "The progenitors will come. They promised our children one call for help. This is that call. And if they don't, ask the premier of the Asian Coalition." "Then we fight with what we have," Yuna replied. "And we die knowing we tried. But they will come. I believe that." On Unity 7, Lieutenant Hannah approached her captain privately in his office. "Sir, with respect, what was that? We just threatened a fleet that could destroy us in minutes." Daewon looked at her with those tired eyes. "Hannah, how long have you served under me?" 3 years, sir." "In 3 years, have I ever lied to you or given you a foolish order?" "No, sir." "Then trust me now. That warning was real. If the Velkari do not leave, they will perish. Not by our hand, but they will perish. I don't understand." Daewon walked to his window, looking out at Earth floating below. 40 years ago, we found something on Mars. Something that changed everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the universe. You'll understand soon. Everyone will." Across the solar system, human ships waited. Families held each other tight. Children asked their parents if everything would be okay. Parents lied and said yes, because that's what parents do. And in the depths of space, racing faster than light itself, an answer to humanity's call was coming. The progenitors had heard their children cry out, and they were coming home. 6 hours after the warning, Dexville sent his scout forces forward. 20 Valkyrie ships broke formation and moved toward Earth's defensive line. Their shields shimmered with power, their weapons charged and ready. This was standard procedure, probed to test the enemy's strength before the main assault. Admiral Taemin Song stood on the bridge of the Indomitable,
Earth's
largest warship. It was barely 1/10 the size of a single Valkyrie scout vessel. Around him, 9 other human ships waited in formation. He was 62 years old, a career military officer who had commanded ships for 30 years. He had fought pirates, put down rebellions, and kept the peace in the asteroid belt. But he had never fought anything like this. "All ships, this is Admiral Song. Hold formation. Wait for my command." The Valkyrie scouts approached slowly, arrogantly. They did not expect resistance. When they came within weapons range, Taemin gave the order. "All ships, fire." Missiles and energy weapons lashed out from the human fleet. Explosions bloomed against Valkyrie shields. The humans poured everything they had into the attack. 30 years of military development focused into one desperate barrage. It wasn't enough. The Valkyrie shields flickered but held. One scout ship showed minor damage. That was all. "Turn fire," the Valkyrie scout commander ordered casually. Purple beams of coherent energy sliced through space. The human destroyer Vigilant exploded instantly, vaporized. The cruiser Defiant broke in half, atmosphere venting into space. One by one, human ships died. Admiral Taemin watched his fleet burning around him. He had expected this. They all had. "Helm, prepare to ram the lead Valkyrie vessel. Communications, send code sequence Delta 7. "Sir," that's his executive officer began. "Do it!" The Indomitable surged forward, engines burning at maximum. just before it reached the Valkyrie scout ship. Taemin's communications officer broadcast a specific sequence of numbers and symbols. Then the Indomitables struck the Valkyrie shields and exploded in a ball of fire. 8 human ships destroyed. 2 limped away, heavily damaged. The Valkyrie scouts were barely scratched. On Unity 7, Hannah watched the tactical display with tears in her eyes. "Captain, the Admiral's fleet is gone." "They're all gone." Daewon stood silent for a moment, his face carved from stone. "Did they transmit code sequence Delta 7? "Yes, sir. All destroyed ships broadcast it before they died." "Then they did their part. Mark them as heroes, Lieutenant." Hannah stared at him. "Sir, how can you be so calm? We just lost 8 ships and 2,000 people." "I mourned them," Daewon said quietly. "But they knew what they were doing. Those transmissions weren't random. They were part of the protocol." In the pilot-ready room of Unity 7, Gi-woo Park suited up for deployment. He was 23 years old, fresh from training, and absolutely terrified. His hands shook as he sealed his flight suit. Around him, other pilots prepared in silence. They had all watched the fleet die. Die. His sister Hyjin stood in the doorway. She was a medical officer, still wearing her surgical scrubs. "You don't have to do this. They need pilots in reserve. Someone has to fly," he said, trying to sound brave. "Besides, remember what grandmother used to say? Humans don't quit. We never quit." Hyjin hugged him tightly. "Come back to me." "I promise." It was a lie. They both knew it. But sometimes lies are kinder than truth. On the Valkyrie flagship, Science Officer Nexera studied her displays with growing alarm. "Commander, I must insist you review these findings." The Exvel was celebrating the easy victory over the human fleet. He turned to her impatiently. "What is it, Nexera?" "The humans are broadcasting continuously into deep space. The signal originates from their southern pole and uses quantum entanglement principles we do not fully understand. More concerning, each human ship that was destroyed broadcast an identical code sequence. They were not random actions. This was coordinated." "Coordinated how?" "We destroyed them easily. That is what concerns me, Commander. They knew they would be destroyed. They went anyway. In those broadcasts," she manipulated her console, "they are not distress signals or military communications. They are something else. Markers, perhaps. Or confirmations." Dexful clicked his mandibles dismissively. "You see ghosts, Nixara? The humans are afraid. They make desperate gestures. It means nothing. Continue the invasion countdown." But Nixara could not shake her unease. In her 40 years as a science officer, she had studied 17 conquered species. None had behaved like this. Fear she understood. Desperation she recognized. But this calm acceptance of death while broadcasting strange codes, that was new. And in her experience, new things in battle were dangerous things. 15 hours until the deadline. Earth cities were being evacuated to underground shelters. Not because anyone thought it would save them if the Velkar began bombardment, but because doing something was better than doing nothing. In Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Snow, Palo, Mumbai, people moved in orderly lines, helping each other, staying calm. Humanity had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They would face this threat the same way they had faced all the others, together in the Antarctic facility. Dr. Sung-ho monitored the beacon. Commander Yanesio stood beside him, watching the quantum display. "How long until we know if they received it?" she asked. "The signal should have reached the nearest progenitor listening post 8 hours ago," Sung-ho replied. "If they are coming, they are already on their way. If they're not..." Sung-ho looked at her with sad eyes. "Then we used our one call and got no answer. And humanity dies knowing we were not as important to our creators as we hoped." Yanesio put her hand on his shoulder. "Don't think like that. They will come." "Faith is a beautiful thing," Sung-ho said softly. "I hope you are right." 20 hours until the deadline. On Unity 7, Captain Day 1 held a brief memorial service for Admiral Taman and the 2,000 who died with him. The station's chapel was packed. Hannah read the names of the fallen. When she finished, Day 1 spoke. They bought us time with their lives. Time for the protocol to work. Time for help to arrive. They knew the cost and paid it willingly. We honor them not with tears alone, but by standing ready to do the same if we must. Earth does not surrender. Humanity does not break. We bend, we adapt, but we do not break. After the service, Hannah found him alone in the chapel. Captain, you keep talking about the protocol like it's some magical solution. I've seen our weapons. They don't work. What help could possibly arrive in time? Day 1 studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his command tablet and entered a series of codes. This is classified above top secret. But you deserve to know what you might die for. He showed her a file. 40 years ago, the first Mars colony found something. A structure buried beneath Olympus Mons. Inside was technology and a message. The message was simple. We are not alone. We never were. Humanity did not evolve naturally on Earth. Hannah's eyes widened. What? We were seated here? Placed here by an ancient species millions of years ago. They scattered us across the galaxy, hundreds of worlds, then vanished. But they left us something. Beacon. A way to call them once if we faced extinction. Protocol 17 is that call? And you think they're coming? After millions of years? They promised. And everything we learned from that structure suggests they keep their promises. Hannah sat down heavily. So we're waiting for ancient aliens to save us? We're waiting for family, Day 1 corrected. For parents to come when their children cry out. 3 hours until the deadline. The Velkari fleet moved into final attack positions. Vexville stood on his bridge, victorious before the battle even began. All ships prepare for planetary bombardment. In 1 hour, we will teach these humans the price of defiance. And in the depths of space, something responded to humanity's call. Space itself began to ripple and fold, preparing for an arrival that would change everything. 20-4 hours had passed. War Commander Vexville stood triumphant on his bridge, all 4 eyes fixed on the blue planet ahead. The human deadline had expired. Now came the harvest. All ships, begin bombardment sequence. Target population centers first. Break their will, then collect the survivors. This was routine for the Velkari. They had refined this process across 47 worlds. Fire rained from the sky. Cities burned. Populations surrendered. Resources were harvested. Simple, efficient, profitable. Vexval raised his manipulator to give the final command. Then space tore apart. Not the normal blue shimmer of hyperspace. This was different. Golden light erupted throughout the solar system. Great wounds in reality itself that blazed like infant stars. The light was so bright that automatic shutters slammed down across every viewport in the Velkari fleet. Report. Vexville roared, suddenly afraid for the first time in his military career. His sensor officer struggled with instruments that screamed warnings. Unknown spatial phenomena detected. Multiple massive signatures emerging. Commander, they are enormous. Through the golden tiers in space, ships began to emerge. They were vast beyond comprehension, each one dwarfing even the largest Velkari dreadnought. They were not built. They were grown, organic curves and flowing lines that suggested something alive. Their hulls shimmered with color that hurt to look at directly, colors that existed somewhere between gold and silver and pearl. They radiated power like stars radiated heat. One appeared directly above Earth. 3 more materialized near Mars. 2 flanked the Velkari fleet. More kept coming until 20 of them filled the inner solar system. They moved with impossible grace, defying physics. Their presence bending space itself around their hulls. On Unity 7, every crew member stood frozen in awe. Captain Day 1 allowed himself a small smile, the first anyone had seen since the crisis began. Lieutenant Hannah gripped her console with white knuckles, staring at the display showing the massive vessels. "What are they?" she whispered. The progenitors, Day-1 said quietly. Our ancestors. They have come. In his fighter, young pilot Ji-Woo Park sat in his cockpit, launch sequence aborted. Staring through his canopy at the ship hovering above Earth, it was beautiful and terrible all at once. He had never felt so small. He had never felt so protected. The progenitor ships did not attack. Not yet. Instead, a communication reached every ship, every station, every device in the solar system. It was not transmitted through normal channels. It simply appeared directly in the mind of every being capable of understanding. The voice was old, ancient beyond measure, yet it spoke with clarity in every language simultaneously. On Earth, people heard it in Korean, English, Mandarin, Hindi, Spanish, Arabic, and thousands more. On the Valkyrie ships, they heard it in their own tongue. The message was identical. The harvest of our children is forbidden. Leave now. The communication ended. Silence filled the solar system. The Valkyrie fleet hung motionless. 200 warships suddenly reduced to insignificance by the presence of 20 godlike vessels. Dexvel struggled to process what was happening. His tactical training, his decades of experience, all of it failed him. He had never faced anything like this. No Valkyrie had. But he was war commander of the Harvest Fleet. He had never retreated. Retreat meant dishonor. Dishonor meant death. He made the worst decision of his life. Ships attack the unknown vessels. Fire at will. His crew hesitated. Science officer Nexera turned to him in horror. Commander, we do not know what those ships are capable of. I gave an order. The Valkyrie fleet opened fire. 200 warships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Energy beams powerful enough to crack planets. Missiles carrying warheads that could shatter moons. Kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Everything the Valkyrie had designed to destroy resistant worlds. They threw at the progenitor ships. The attack was impressive. It was overwhelming. It was the concentrated military might of an empire that had conquered. 47 star systems, it was completely useless. The weapons struck the progenitor shields and simply vanished. Not reflected, not absorbed. They ceased to exist. Energy unraveled back into quantum foam. Matter returned to its constituent particles. The progenitor ships did not even shudder from the impact. The battle lasted 17 seconds. Golden beams of light lanced out from the progenitor vessels. Not to destroy. Not to kill. Each beam touched a Valkyrie ship with surgical precision. Systems shut down instantly. Power cores went offline. Weapon systems froze. Life support remained functional, but everything else simply stopped. One by one, across the span of 17 seconds, every Valkyrie ship in the fleet went dark and dead in space. Every ship except one. Dexvel's flagship remained untouched. Fully functional, completely operational. It floated alone among the disabled hulks of his fleet. Engines humming, shields active, weapons ready but useless. A new communication arrived. This one was for Dexvel alone. This one chose violence. This one will carry the warning to others. Dexvel collapsed into his command chair. Around him, his crew stood in shocked silence. Nexera looked at her instruments, confirming what they all knew. The progenitors had disabled 199 warships in 17 seconds and left his flagship untouched. Not as mercy. As a message, you will tell them what happened here. On Unity 7, Lieutenant Hannah translated the progenitor communication for the crew. When she finished, the bridge erupted in cheers. People hugged each other. Some cried, others laughed. Humanity had been saved. Captain Day-1 did not celebrate. He stood at his window, looking at the progenitor ship above Earth. Lieutenant Cho opened a channel to Earth Command. Tell them to prepare casualty reports. We need to honor our dead before we celebrate our survival. His words sobered the bridge. 2,000 humans had died in the initial probe. They had bought time with their lives for the progenitors to arrive. The victory was real, but it had a price. In his fighter, Giwu activated his communication system. "Hi, Jin. Are you there?" His sister's voice came through, thick with tears. "I'm here." "Gu, we're alive." "We're actually alive," he said, staring at the massive ship above them. "We are. Grandmother was right. We never quit. And apparently, we have family that never quit on us either." Admiral Taemin's remaining ships, damaged but intact, received a direct communication from the progenitor vessels. The ship's communication officer, a young woman named Bior Shin, took the message with shaking hands. "The progenitors are acknowledging humanity's growth. They say we passed a test." "A test?" the executive officer asked. "They left the beacon on Mars 40 years ago. They've been watching us since we found it. They wanted to see if we would try to weaponize their technology or use it wisely. If we would call them immediately or wait until we truly needed help. They say most species fail this test. We passed." In the Antarctic facility, Dr. Sung-ho watched his instruments power down as the beacon completed its work. Commander Yanasio stood beside him, both of them exhausted from 24 hours without sleep. "They came," she said simply. Sung-ho replied. "They kept their promise. After millions of years, they kept their promise to their children. What happens now?" "Now." Sung-ho looked up at the ceiling, through the rock and ice, toward the golden ships above. "Now we find out what kind of galaxy we really live in." On the Valkyrie flagship, Thetsfell sat alone in his darkened command center. His crew worked frantically to restore the other ships, but it was useless. The progenitors had not damaged the vessels. They had simply turned them off in ways Valkyrie engineers could not reverse. A holographic projection appeared before him. It was not a progenitor. It was a map. A map of the galaxy with hundreds of worlds marked in gold. All of them protected. All of them seeded with progenitor children. The Valkyrie Empire had built itself in a tiny pocket of space the progenitors had left unwatched. That pocket had just gotten much smaller. A voice accompanied the map. The ancient voice of the progenitors. "Return to your empire, Thetsfell. Tell them what you learned here. Show them this map. Any species that threatens our children will face us. This is your purpose now. Be the warning." The hologram faded. Thetsfell sat in darkness, staring at the space where the map had been. He understood now. The humans had not lied. They had given him a genuine warning. Leave or perish. He had chosen not to leave. His fleet had perished as fighting ships left as disabled hulks. But he lived. He would carry the warning to others. He would tell them about Earth, about humanity, about the progenitors who came when their children called. The harvest of humanity had failed. But the harvest of this lesson had just begun. 3 days after the progenitors arrived, President Unipark stood before a joint session of the United Earth Assembly. Every nation, every colony, every settlement in human space had representatives present, through in-person or via holographic link. The chamber was silent as she prepared to address humanity, and through broadcast, the Valkyrie fleet still disabled in orbit. "People of Earth," she began. 3 days ago, we faced extinction. Today we stand alive because of a secret our governments have kept for 40 years. It is time that secret ended." She activated a holographic display showing the structure discovered on Mars 40 years ago. The first deep mining expedition on Mars discovered this beneath Olympus Mons. At first, we thought it was a natural formation. We were wrong. It was a facility built by beings who existed millions of years before humanity developed agriculture. The display shifted, showing interior images of crystalline technology that seemed to grow from the walls. Inside, we found information, records, a history we never knew we had. Humanity did not evolve naturally on Earth. We were placed here, seeded deliberately by a species we now call the progenitors. They scattered us across hundreds of worlds throughout the galaxy, then departed to regions unknown. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Despite the presence of the progenitors' ships above Earth, this revelation still shocked many. Una raised her hand for silence. They left us with something. A beacon. A way to call them once if we faced a threat we could not overcome ourselves. Only once. Ever. That was the covenant they left. Grow, learn, explore, but know that if you face annihilation, you can call us. One time she paused, letting the weight of those words settle. For 40 years, 6 successive Earth presidents and the security councils of every major nation debated when or if to use that call. We faced crises, wars, diseases, climate disasters. Each time, we asked ourselves, is this the threat? And each time, we chose to solve our problems ourselves because we knew we only had one call. The display changed to show the Velkar fleet arriving. When the Valkyrie came, we knew. This was an extinctional-level threat. 200 warships against our 30. We could not win. We would not survive. So we activated Protocol 17. We made the call. And they came, Una said, her voice thick with emotion. After millions of years, they kept their promise to their children. The progenitors came. She looked directly at the camera broadcasting to the Valkyrie ships. The Valkyrie were not the first to threaten Earth. Twice before, hostile ships entered our system. Both times we gave them the same warning we gave you. Both times they left. They understood that some warnings are real. War Commander Thexville, you chose not to believe. You chose violence. Now you will carry this lesson to your empire and to any others who might threaten humanity or any other progenitor-protected species. In his darkened flagship, Vexfell watched the broadcast. Around him, his skeleton crew worked to maintain life support and basic systems. Science Officer Nexura stood beside him. She speaks the truth, Nexura said quietly. I've analyzed the quantum markers on our ships. Every vessel in the fleet now carries a signature that any advanced species can detect. They will know we attacked a progenitor world. They will know we failed. Dexfall clicked his mandibles slowly. The Empire will not accept this. They will call us cowards and show them the sensor logs. Show them the ships that disabled our entire fleet in 17 seconds. Show them the galactic map the progenitors sent you. Nexara turned to face him. Commander, I have served you for 15 years. You are a warrior. But even warriors must recognize when they have encountered something beyond warfare. The progenitors are not an enemy that can be defeated. They are a force of nature. President Una continued her address. Today, I am announcing the dissolution of Protocol 17. The secret is over. Humanity knows the truth about our origins. More importantly, the galaxy knows. We are not alone. We are part of something larger, older, and more significant than we imagined. She smiled, and it was genuine despite her exhaustion. The progenitors have left us another message. They will remain in our system for 1 week to ensure the Valkyrie departure. Then they will leave. But they told us something important. If humanity continues to grow without becoming destroyers ourselves, they will return in 1,000 years. Not to protect us, but to offer us partnership, to teach us what they know, to welcome us as equals rather than children. The chamber erupted in applause. Una waited for silence. 1,000 years. That is the gift they have given us. Time to prove we are worthy of what they gave us. Not the beacon, not the protection. The chance to grow into something better. On Unity 7, Captain Daywan held a private meeting with Lieutenant Hannah and several other senior officers. They gathered in his conference room, looking exhausted but alive. Captain, people are calling you a hero, Lieutenant Hannah said. You kept calm when everyone else was panicking. You knew they would come. Daywan shook his head. I am not a hero. I simply followed orders. Protocol 17 was designed by people far smarter than me. I just executed it. 2,000 people died buying us time, said Commander Byung-Ho Yoon, the station's tactical officer. Were they necessary? If the progenitors are so powerful, couldn't they have arrived sooner? The progenitors were testing us, Daywan explained. When we found the beacon, we could have tried to use their technology as a weapon. We could have called them immediately out of curiosity rather than need. We could have used the beacon to threaten other species. We did none of those things. He stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. Admiral Taman and those 2,000 souls proved something important. They proved humanity would fight for itself first. that we would sacrifice, but not surrender. The progenitors needed to see that we were worth saving, that we had grown into something more than helpless children crying for protection. It seems cruel, Hannah said softly. Perhaps Day One agreed. But parents who protect children from every hardship raise weak children. The progenitors wanted to see if we were strong. We showed them we were, in the Antarctic facility. Dr. Sung-ho gave a tour to journalists from across Earth. Commander Yanesio accompanied them. Answering questions as they walked through the progenitor structure, Dr. Bay, why did we hide this? Asked a reporter from Seoul. Why keep such an important discovery secret? Sung-ho stopped before the beacon control panel. Because humanity needed time to mature. Imagine if we had announced this 40 years ago. Nations would have fought over this technology. Religious groups would have had crises of faith. Conspiracy theories would have torn society apart. We needed to stabilize, to grow, to become ready for this truth. And you think we're ready now? Another reporter challenged. The Valkyrie forced our hand, Yanesio answered. But yes, I believe we are ready. We have had 40 years of global cooperation managing this secret. That cooperation taught us how to work together, how to keep humanity united even when we disagreed. She gestured around the chamber. This facility has been maintained by scientists from every nation. Korean engineers worked beside Brazilian technicians. Russian physicists collaborated with Nigerian computer experts. For 40 years, the people in this room put Earth first. That unity saved us. On Mars, at the original Discovery site, a memorial was being constructed. Young Ji-woo had survived the crisis and volunteered to help build it. He worked alongside his sister Hye-jin, who had taken leave from medical duties to participate. Why did you volunteer for this? Hye-jin asked, as they helped position a foundation stone. Ji-woo looked up at the stars, where the progenitor ships still watched over the solar system, because I want to remember how small I felt in that cockpit, how terrified I was. And how it turned out, I was never alone. None of us were. I want to help build something that reminds people of that. The memorial would be simple. A circular platform with 20 pillars representing the progenitor's ships. In the center, a list of names. The 2,000 who died before help arrived. An inscription would read, "They bought us time. We bought them eternity in our memory." On the 6th day after the progenitors arrived, Ambassador Velthos of the Meridian species arrived in a small, unarmed ship. The Meridians were the first aliens humanity had met 40 years ago, shortly after discovering the progenitor structure. They had been friendly, warning Earth about the dangerous nature of the galaxy. Velthos met privately with President Yuna in Geneva. "I must confess something," the alien said through his translation device. "We suspected Earth might be a progenitor world. We could not be certain, but there were signs. Your rapid technological development, your genetic diversity, the way you approached problems with unusual creativity. You took a risk befriending us," Yuna observed. "Yes, if we were wrong and the Valkyrie came, we could have faced retaliation for warning you. But we felt it was right." Velthos' skin patterns shifted, indicating emotion. "Do you know why we took that risk? Tell me. In all our observations of humanity, across all your conflicts and challenges, you never chose cruelty when kindness was possible. You fought wars, yes. You had conflicts, but you also had compassion. You helped the weak. You cared for the sick. You created art and music and stories that suggested to us you were worthy of the legacy you might carry." Yuna felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for proving us right." 6 months had passed since the progenitors came to Earth. War Commander Thexful stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his home world grow larger on the view screen. Behind him, stretched across 100,000 kilometers of space, floated the disabled hulks of his fleet. Valkyrie engineering crews had managed to restore basic propulsion to most ships, enough to limp home at sublight speeds. The journey had taken 6 months of humiliation. Every ship still carried the quantum marker the progenitors had placed on them. Every vessel broadcast to any advanced sensor array exactly what had happened. We attacked a progenitor world. We failed. We were spared to carry the warning. Approaching Valkyrie Prime, his navigator announced. The High Command is demanding immediate report. Exfil stood straighter. He had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. Nexara stood beside him, data tablets loaded with sensor logs, recordings, and analysis. They had documented everything, sent him all files. Every scan, every recording, the holographic map the progenitors showed us. Everything, Commander. They will call us cowards. Let them, Dexfel said quietly. Then let them watch the recordings. Let them see how we lasted 17 seconds against beings that could unmake reality itself. Let them judge us after they see the truth, the files transmitted. Hours later, Vexville was summoned before the High Command. He stood in the Great Chamber where 47 conquered worlds had been logged. Where campaigns were planned and glory was distributed, now he stood there in disgrace. High Commander Velkash stared down at him from the judgment seat. You return with your fleet disabled, your warriors humiliated, and your honor destroyed. Explain. Dexville activated the holographic display. The chamber filled with images of the progenitor ships emerging from golden tiers in space. He played the battle recording in real time. The Valkyrie assault. The complete failure of their weapons. The 17 seconds it took to disable 199 warships. The chamber fell silent as the recordings ended. You faced gods, Velkash said finally, and you fired on them anyway. It gave us a warning, Vexfel replied. The humans told us to leave. I did not believe them. I chose battle. I was wrong. He activated another display showing the galactic map the progenitors had shown him. Hundreds of worlds marked in gold. These are all protected worlds. Seated with progenitor children, our empire exists in a small pocket they left unwatched. If we attack any of these worlds, the progenitors will come, and they will not show mercy twice. The High Command studied the map in silence. Finally, Velkash spoke. The harvest of these worlds is forbidden. This decision will cost our empire resources and expansion opportunities. The alternative is extinction, Nexara said, stepping forward. I analyzed the progenitor weapons. They did not use their full power against us. What we experienced was a warning strike. If they had chosen to destroy us, we would have ceased to exist on a molecular level. Velkash looked at the young science officer. You are certain? I have spent 6 months analyzing the data. I am absolutely certain. The progenitors could destroy our entire empire with a single ship. Perhaps with a single thought. The High Command conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, Velkash announced his judgment. Dexful, you are stripped of command for failing to heed the warning. However, you are also commended for returning with vital intelligence that may have saved our species from extinction. You will serve as an advisor on progenitor-protected worlds. Dexville bowed. It was better than he had hoped for. I will serve. As for the rest of the empire, Velkash continued, we will broadcast this information to all Valkyrie worlds and all species we have contact with. The harvest of progenitor-protected worlds is forbidden. Any commander who violates this decree will face immediate execution. The data spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone anticipated. The Valkyrie broadcast their warning. The Meridians added their own observations. Other species who had encountered humanity shared their experiences. Within months, every major civilization in the region knew the truth. Earth was protected. Humanity had called their ancient parents, and those parents had answered, on Earth. Ambassador Ginho Quan prepared for humanity's first official appearance at the Galactic Council. It was a gathering of 63 species, representing hundreds of worlds. Humanity had been invited not as supplicants or servants, but as equals. Jin-Ho stood in the council chamber on the neutral station of Kavros Prime. Around him, beings of every imaginable form watched with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. He had prepared a speech, but looking at these faces, he decided to speak from his heart instead. My name is Jin-Ho Quan. I represent Earth and all human colonies. 6 months ago, we nearly died. An empire came to harvest us, to take our resources and enslave our people. We warned them. They did not listen. They attacked, and our parents came to protect us." He paused, meeting the eyes of various delegates. We did not want to use that call. For 40 years, we debated whether we were worthy of it, whether we should handle our problems ourselves. We only called when we faced certain extinction. We believed that was the right choice. A delegate from the Krill Dominion, a species known for military power, spoke up. "You have powerful protectors. Do you plan to use that protection to conquer others?" "No," Ginho said firmly. "The progenitors gave us a gift, yes. But they also gave us a responsibility. They will return in 1,000 years to see if we are worthy of partnership. If we become conquerors, if we become destroyers, they will not return. Or worse, they may return to judge us as failures." He activated a display showing Earth. "We seek trade. Yet we seek friendship. We seek to learn from the galaxy and share what we know. We do not seek to dominate or threaten. Any species that comes to us in peace will find peace. Any species that comes in friendship will find friendship. And any that come in war," asked a Sethrak representative. Jinho met the being's eyes. "We gave the Velker a fair warning. We will give the same to any aggressor. Leave or face the consequences. We hope that warning will never be necessary again. But we will give it if we must." The council voted. Humanity was granted full membership status. Trade agreements were negotiated. Cultural exchanges were planned. Earth's isolation had ended. On Mars, the memorial was completed. Thousands gathered for the dedication ceremony. Giwu stood with his sister Haijin, both of them in dress uniforms. Admiral Taemin's widow, Subinson, stood at the front, holding the folded flag from her husband's ship. President Yunus spoke at the ceremony. "We remember 2,000 names, 2,000 heroes who bought us time. They knew they would not survive. They went anyway. Not because they were foolish, but because they understood sacrifice. They understood that sometimes the many are saved by the few." She paused before the central pillar. "We also remember War Commander Vexvel and Science Officer Nexera of the Velkari fleet. I know that sounds strange. They were our enemies, but they learned from their mistake. They carried the warning to their empire into the galaxy. They helped prevent future conflicts. That took courage. We acknowledge that courage." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence. Then the names were read. All 2,000. It took hours. No one left. On Unity 7, Captain Daewon trained the next generation of defense officers. The station had become famous, a symbol of humanity's stand against extinction. Visitors came from across Earth and from other worlds to see where humanity made its final warning. Lieutenant Hannah, now promoted to commander, ran the tour programs. She showed visitors the bridge where Daewon gave the ultimatum, the chapel where they held the memorial, the displays showing the progenitor ships arriving. "Do you think they'll really come back in 1,000 years?" a young cadet asked her. Hannah looked out at Earth floating below. "I don't know. But I know what we have to do in the meantime. We have to prove we're worth coming back to. We have to build a civilization that values life, that seeks knowledge, that helps others. We have 1,000 years to get it right." In the Antarctic facility, now a museum open to the public, Dr. Sung Ho and Commander Yanesio gave their final tour before retiring. They had spent 40 years protecting humanity's greatest secret. Now, they spent their last days sharing it. A child raised her hand. "Dr. Bay, will we ever see the progenitors again?" Sung Ho knelt to the child's level. "Maybe, but whether they come back or not, we have 1,000 years to prove we're worthy of the gift they gave us. Not the beacon. Not the protection. The chance to grow into something better." "How do we do that?" the child asked. "By being kind when we can. By being brave when we must. By helping each other and learning from our mistakes. By becoming the kind of people who deserve to have family like the progenitors." The child seemed satisfied with that answer. On the edge of what used to be Velkari space, Dexvel broadcast his final report. He was old now, his carapace graying, his mandibles worn, but his voice was strong. "To all species capable of receiving this message, I am Dexvel, formerly War Commander of the Velkari Harvest Fleet. I attacked a world called Earth. I ignored their warning. I believed we were invincible. I was wrong. He showed the recordings one more time. The humans gave us truth. Leave or perish. We did not leave. We should have perished. The progenitors showed mercy. They left us alive to carry this warning. The harvest of progenitor children is forbidden. If you see the quantum markers on our ships, know that we learned this lesson through failure. Learn from our mistake. Heed the warnings. Show wisdom we did not possess. The message ended with a simple statement. Thank you, humanity, for the warning. Years passed. Earth's cities recovered. Trade flourished. Human ships explored the galaxy, making friends, building relationships, learning, and teaching. They carried with them the story of the day their parents came to save them. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of Seoul, a young couple walked through a park. Above them, a statue showed Captain Daewon giving humanity's warning. The inscription read, "Leave now or perish." Sometimes the bravest words are the simplest. The woman read the inscription and smiled. Do you think we'll live up to what they expect? The progenitors? The man squeezed her hand. We have 1,000 years to try. That's the gift they gave us. Not protection. It's not power. Time. Time to become something worthy of being their children. They walked on under a sky that now held not just stars, but the promise of family among them. Somewhere in the depths of space, the progenitor ships watched, waiting, judging, hoping their children would grow into the beings they were always meant to be. And on Earth, humanity worked, lived, loved, and learned. They had been given one final warning that they could call for help. They'd use it wisely. Now they had 1,000 years to prove they deserved the chance they had been given. 1,000 years to show they were worthy of being called children of the prod. 1,000 years to become something magnificent. The clock was ticking. But for the first time in human history, they knew they were not alone as they walked toward that future.